Everybody, welcome. My name is Jason W. Hoyt. You can find out more about me at jasonwhoyt.com. That's jasonwhoyt.com. I host a radio show called American Patriots Radio. I'm also the founder of Liberty Restoration Publishing, where last year I released my first book, Consent of the Governed, The People's Guide to Holding Government Accountable. The good news is, and I have that on the front cover there, we don't have to wait for elections to hold our government accountable. I have it available on my website, jasonwhoyt.com. It's available in paperback and audio and ebook as well. It's on Amazon and ebook. So check that out, jasonwhoyt.com. Look for Consent of the Governed, The People's Guide to Holding Government Accountable. I just did a blog post today titled, How You React to These Headlines Defines Your Character. Again, how you react to these headlines defines your character. Because and I have the blog post at jasonwhoyt.com, a lot of links to these articles, to these videos and that, but I asked some important questions. Because we've all been through this. We've all had that where some friend of ours on Facebook posts some article and it makes some crazy claim. Makes some really, seems outlandish. Not in this country. That wouldn't happen in this country, right? But when you look at that, when you look at the URL of that, it's some website you never heard of, somebody supposed to look like a news site, but you don't know who they are. They're not credible. They don't have a reputation. So what do you do when you look at that? And that's going to define who you are. That's going to tell everybody where you are in this awakening. What do you do with that? Do you just dismiss it because, well, it's too far-fetched and look at the news source? Is that what you do? You just dismiss it? Think about that for a little bit. So here's a question. You got CNN, you got Fox News, National Review, New York Times. Important question here. Do you believe what they put out? Are they credible? Do they have good reputations? I mean, they've all been around a little while, right? Or a while. Do you believe them? So how you answer that, there's three possible outcomes or three possible answers to that question. You say, well, none are biased. They're the news. They're reputable. Those are the staples in news, right? Do you believe everything they put out? Or do you say, well, I believe Fox News, but that CNN, boy, they're biased. Or is it, look, I read National Review all the time and I believe them, but the New York Times, or do you think the New York Times is the epitome of journalism and the other ones are shade? I mean, how you answer that is going to define you and your character and where you are in the awakening. Maybe you haven't even woken up yet. But here's a scenario. You receive a video in an email or you see it on Facebook, and it's from that hacker group Anonymous, right? It's from Anonymous, and they expose some things with the Oregon Refuge and all the standoff that's been going on out there. And they've got some dramatic background music, and the letters scroll like in Star Wars, and they make some crazy claims that, I mean, this one video, and I have a link to it at jasonwhoyt.com on this show's blog post. The video claims there's a Canadian company that's part owned by Putin in Russia that has mineral rights to the uranium in Oregon. And that's why there's been so much focus in Harney County and the Malheur Wildlife Refuge and all that. That's kind of crazy, isn't it? First off, a foreign company owning mineral rights to here in the United States, not just a foreign company, but a Canadian company that's owned by Russia. And it's not just iron and copper and minerals, it's uranium. Hello? So what do? You watch this video, you see all this stuff, and they go through and they have screenshots of these websites, and there's a red circle, and it highlights where they want you to read, and there's snapshots of these documents, and you're like, wow. So what do? You don't know who they are. Anonymous. They're anonymous. What do? Do you just dismiss it? Or are you a little bit curious at this point? Seems far-fetched, right? Well, here's another one. Here's another article. This one's in National Review. It says, and this is from April last year in 2015, how Hillary let Russia buy 20% of U.S. uranium production capacity. What? This is a National Review. They've been around a while. So they're claiming Hillary Clinton is involved. It's getting absurd now. This is the stuff that Hollywood puts out in movies, right? I mean, yeah, politicians, they lie, they break campaign promises, but they're involved in allowing Russia to buy uranium rights in the United States? Really? Yeah, okay, it's National Review. Maybe they're just a right-winger, website. We could dismiss them. Remember, this was around the same time that Peter Schweizer, the president of the Foundation for Government Accountability, released a book called Clinton Cash, The Untold Story of How and Why Foreign Governments and Businesses Helped Make Bill and Hillary Rich. Wow. Okay, and now in this book, I mean, you remember this last spring. I mean, everybody was talking about it, right? The Foundation for Government Accountability. This book, 186 pages, I think, and there's tons of research, and they had a huge team of research, and the way they did the rollout was phenomenal. So do you just dismiss this as biased reporting at this point and sloppy journalism still? Really? Well, here's what's fascinating. Remember that National Review article? They spent the majority of their time in that article quoting this article in the New York Times by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Joe Becker, titled Cash Flowed to Clinton Foundation Amid Russian Uranium Deal. Wow. Okay. So in that second paragraph, they're referred to an article in 2013. It detailed how the Russian Atomic Energy Agency, Rosatom, had taken over a Canadian company, that's Uranium One, that was mentioned in that first video by Anonymous. The Canadian company with uranium mining stakes stretching from Central Asia to the American West. Okay, and actually, look at that picture right there. That picture zoomed in a little bit. That is Uranium One. The caption says a Uranium One sign that points to a 35,000-acre ranch owned by John Christensen near the town of Gillette, Wyoming. Uranium One has the mining rights to Mr. Christensen's property. Wow. Okay, so you got Anonymous, you got National Reviews, you got the New York Times in a book that's exposing all of this. You got a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist exposing all of this. What's this got to do with Oregon? It's pretty clear thus far. But here is from 2007 when Uranium One purchased EMC, Energy Metals Corporation. This is on the Uranium One website. When you search in this document for Oregon, or more specifically, I mean, look, they have a Utah project, they have an Oregon project. Where? Malheur County, Oregon. Malheur County next to Harney County. Malheur Refuge. Okay, so what do you do with this information? How you react to this is going to define you and your character. Are you at least, wow, this is weird. This is interesting. Is that why they're kicking the ranchers off? Or are they? Search BLM, Bureau of Land Management, land grab. Google search it. Have fun. Take a look at it. Look at all the cases around the West, Utah, Nevada, Oregon, a lot of other places where the BLM has been giving them a hard time. And I'm going to go into that in a further video. But I also have a link to this page here. Oregon BLM document data dump exposes it's all about the minerals. Now, there's a whole bunch of links on this. A couple of them are dead links, fascinating enough, that they were live. They did have information on there, but they've since been taken down. Fascinating. But I also have on the blog post at jasonwhoit.com, Fox News did an hour segment last year regarding all this Clinton stuff and the uranium deal and the Russians. And I embedded a 13-minute segment that interviewed the Joe Becker, the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist from New York Times. This particular episode, Clinton Foundation reportedly got millions as Russians sought okay for the uranium deal from the state. And remember, the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, on their website in Oregon, They're in the mineral leasing business. So again, guys, how you react to this is going to define you and your character. Do you just, I can't see this, I can't hear this, I'm not paying attention, I don't see it, so therefore it must not really exist? Or are you curious? Because this is just the beginning of the rabbit hole. I found this stuff in just an hour or so this morning. What are you going to do? Are you curious? Because here's the deal. Once you awaken, it's hard to go back to sheep.